Yeah, just trying to get this going with the Facebook page. I was saying the demo, um, but third season, guys. So welcome back. We'll roll with this Game Changers Podcast, Season 3, Episode 1, and our special guest today is none other than uh, the one and only Damien Kennedy. How you been, brother?
Good, Johnny. Good, mate. They're going all right. Just, living the country life these days, but yeah, going pretty good.
So I mentioned off air to you, brother, that we played in a few knockouts at Burke, but um, quite sort of fella. So, and you're pretty humble. You don't sort of, you're not a loud fella and, out there. So I don't even know a lot about you, brother. So can you explain to the viewers and myself a little bit about your background, who your mob and where you're from and where you grew up?
Yep, sure. I don't know if a lot of people know a lot about me, but my dad was actually a pretty good footballer out here. He grew up at a little place called Uabalong out near Condobolin. And he actually played for country and things like that. He always told me the last time was a proper countryside in 1976, I think it was. He was in the centres with Mick Cronin, and that was the last time country beat City in the country City game at the cricket ground. He came out to Forbes. He was a Gundagai for a couple of years where I was born. I was born in Gundagai, and then he came to Forbes probably when I was about 2 year old, and I grew up here in Forbes. Just just a normal kid, sort of growing up in little towns. Just lived to play footy in the winter and cricket in the summer.
Yeah.
Played footy with Forbes all my life, and then probably when I was about 18, yeah, I got a chance to trial with. Well, there was a trial for Western Suburbs, and I got picked up by Western Suburbs there. And that was about 1992. I went to Western Suburbs in '93 for the start of the '93 season. And yeah, I played lower grades all through Western Suburbs there until '96, and I made my debut in '96 for Western Suburbs. Played there for a couple of years, and then went and signed with Adelaide Rams, which I went there for 8 weeks, and they closed down. So I don't know if it was an omen because I was there or anything like that, but yeah, went there for about 8 weeks, and they closed down. That's when I went to Canberra Raiders for about a year and a half. They cut me sort of halfway through my second year, and then I went back to Western Suburbs for a little while, but sort of finished up there, and then basically played sort of locally in Campbelltown. I was living in Campbelltown there still, and played locally, Camden, and had a couple of good years at Camden Rams. Won a premiership there. Played in the Illawarra League with West Illawarra. Won a premiership there. And and then came back out to Forbes to sort of get things going again with work and trying to get a job and things like that. And I've been here since about 2011, back out in Forbes, and just been living here.
Yeah, right.
Playing
So,
plenty of knockouts in between. Yeah.
yeah. The family originally from out that way, brother, or did old man just move up from
No,
the city?
so yeah, my grandmother's family, they all came up through Deniliquin and Moama, all through there. They were Vincents and things like that. They were up through Uabalong.
Yeah.
And then my grandfather's family, they were all sort of around here, and we've got a few sort of relations out of Dubbo, but same as any Koori family, particularly when I was playing football. And I'm your cousin. I said, "Oh, you probably are. I don't know, maybe." So yeah, it was always like that.
Did you ever get to lace them up with your Avalon? We were only talking about them on a podcast last night.
No. Probably the first time I seen them was out of the Dubbo knockout. They were playing out there then. I think Bradley Bell had set them up and got them playing out there. But no, I never got a chance to play with them. I was pretty much finished playing by about then when they were sort of playing those knockouts. but yeah, never got the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about growing up in Forbes, brother, and can you remember when you first sort of got scouted? Did you make a lot of those junior rep teams and that from out that way, or CHS and all
Oh
that?
no, I never played a lot of school footy, which is a bit different to a lot of people. At the time, I was going to school at Red Bend out here, and they had a school team, but I'd always played for Forbes, the town team, and they only had 14s and 16s at the time. They've actually got a club here in Forbes now, but it was only 14s and 16s at the time. But I had always played with Forbes, so I kept playing there and never actually played any schoolboy footy. And I left in year 10, so mum and dad gave me the choice I could go to year 11 and 12, couldn't play footy, or I could go work and play footy. I said, well, I don't like school, I like footy better, so I'm going to go play footy. So that was what I did. And then, there was 1992, I was playing for Forbes in the under-18s team, and we actually went through undefeated. A lot of guys, still mates with those guys today. Like, we always catch up. It's a really good time. And then, it was only a couple of weeks after the grand final, West had a trial game out at Orange, and I just went out over there. I wasn't really expecting to get picked up or anything like that. I just wanted to play a bit more football because I had enjoyed the year that I had, when we went through undefeated. And I just one of those days that just went well for me. Everything that I did just went well. Back in those days, I was about 50 kilos lighter, so I could play 5'8" and things like that. But and then got picked up there, and I was sort of in off-season training in Western Suburbs the end of '92, and in the under 21s team in '93.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah.
So you come through as a 5'8", though,
Yeah, I came through as a 5'8". Actually, the funny thing was that me and Dave Peachy always played against each, in the 17 and in the under 18s. We had 2 years against each other. He was playing 5'8", and I was playing 5'8". I'd like to say I was a lot quicker than him, but that'd be a lie. And funnily enough, we both went to Sydney, and he played fullback and I played second row. So go figure that one.
As a kid, like especially out in the bush, footy's always an outlet. It's always an outlet, but it's also what a lot of young brothers and now sisters as well sort of hang their hat on, and it's a way out and it's a way forward. I guess financially it can secure your future, and when you're growing up in little country towns like that, there's not a lot around, so you just happy, I guess, growing up out that way. But when you got a bit of talent and you got these opportunities that is thrust upon you, brother, it can change your life. Was footy always number one for you? Is that what you always aspired to be?
Yeah, particularly when I was growing up, there probably wasn't the amount of sports available there is now. In the winter, it was footy. In the summer, it was cricket. And to sort of, not be bored and things like that, you do those sort of things all the time. I love me cricket. Like cricket, I'd be playing boys cricket in the morning, men's cricket in the afternoon, and then play town cricket representing the town the next day. And then, but really cricket sort of just kept me occupied until footy season came around. And soon as the footballs were out, that was it. And just, grab the football out. People always talk to me like I was one of those kids that walked around town with a football under his arm all the time. Every time, I'd watch a game of football on a Saturday or something on the ABC or something like that, and I'd be back out the back, with the football in the back paddock. We've got a big back paddock out behind my dad's house, and I'd be kicking footballs around there, playing test matches and state of origin games and things like that. Just living dreams, like of watching fellas play football in Sydney. So yeah, that was what it was all about. Sort of just enjoying footy. I probably concentrated too much on football, but as all my teachers that probably would have said. But that was just I had just a passion for it and just loved it, and it was just something that eventually it benefited me absolutely. So I got to go to Sydney and live my dream and things like that. But yeah, it was an unbelievable ride, but then also playing in the knockout and things like that that showed a new sort of passion for the game to me when I was playing in Sydney. I went and played in the knockout a few times, and the passion again just got lifted again playing in the knockout. So there was all those kinds of things that never really sort of happened when I was a kid. But I found out about the knockout late. The funny thing was out sort of in Forbes and things like that. Never really knew about the knockout. Sort of never really heard about it or anything like that. It was only sort of around '94 when I was actually at West, and I was actually playing with Kevin McGuinness and Johnny Scandalis, Kenny McGuinness, these boys. And obviously John couldn't play in the knockout, but Butter and Kenny said, come and play in the knockout with us. And I just straight away said, "What's the knockout?" And they said, "Oh, it's this big weekend of Corey football." I was all right, let's go. And actually, that year that was wild that year too. And it was 1994, and played with the team. Mickey Mundine from Redfern there, he was coaching it, and we had the $1 million back line. Halfback was Wes Patton. 5'8" was Andrew Walker.
Yeah.
The centres were Kenny McGuinness and Chock Mundine. Wingers were Lee Hookey and Kevin McGuinness, and Mick Salafi was fullback. And we were $1 million team, but we had no forward. We had 2 cent forward pack, and we won a couple of games. We got beat late on the afternoon on Sunday and got knocked out. But yeah, it was a good. The first time I was exposed to the knockout, but yeah, I fell in love with it after that.
Who was that for, Damo?
The Wanderers were called the Wanderers, and
Wanderers.
I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the Wanderers. They were that was the team, and I don't know where they were based from. I just remember Mickey Mundine, and it took me a while to understand. He talks too quick for me, and I had to sort of get people to tell me what he said every now and then because I couldn't understand him, but he talked too quick for me.
Yeah. What about some of the players that inspired you? Obviously, you didn't, like you said, you didn't discover knockout until later on. A lot of the young brothers have been around knockout since they were kids, are inspired by some of them players, or obviously players in their hometowns. But I didn't know about your old man, brother. He must have been someone that you aspired to be as well, eh?
Oh, I mean, a lot of people around here reminded me a lot of me. He always reminded me about my dad. He actually got Country Player of the Year one year. I think during the 70s that he was Country Player of the Year. Everyone tells me he was a hard man, and no one took it back from Steve. When I finally got sick of everyone, I said, "Yeah, but he only got marked by other centres." I play against front rowers, so they left me alone a bit after that. But yeah, always heard about everyone. I never got to see many of his games. Actually, I think I've seen it on YouTube now. That 1976 Country City game, it's on there. My dad playing there against Bobby Fulton at the time, like when not at the time, but when I was at West, Tommy Radonicus was my coach, and he talked about playing against my dad. So things like that. That was pretty wild. But sort of growing up, obviously, I grew up in sort of the 80s when Parramatta and Canterbury and Manly were the powerhouses, and I love Phil Blake, and I still to this day I reckon Phil Blake is the only white lad that can chip and chase like a black fella. Using the outside of the foot and all that. No one's been able to prove me wrong, but I love watching Phil Blake play. Steve Ella, blokes, I sort of never really sort of. I knew I was Curry, but sort of never sort of was real sort of deep into it. But I followed, guys like Steve Eller and guys like that because I just thought they had just a different way of playing. Scotty Gale and like Curry lads. I just sort of was attracted to what they were doing. So yeah, I guess those sorts of guys sort of were some heroes of mine. But yeah, certainly my dad was a big hero, and obviously, we had a couple like Wilfred Williams. He actually stayed here with at my dad's house for a while, and he actually played for Force before he went to Western Suburbs. Just a few fellas that were around here when I was little. Like he was always involved with footy and taking in blokes, and me and my brother always in one room, and we got someone else in a room down the hallway, and just things like that happening all the time. But yeah, like I more than anything, I had heroes and that. But yeah, I just love watching the footy. Just love watching the footy and love having a football in my hands. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you talked about going to Sydney and you're only a young fella. So you must have done a couple of years down there because I got down here that you debuted when you were 21. So what were
Yep.
the early years like for you, brother? Like, did you get homesick? Did your parents move down with you?
I got terribly homesick in 90, like when I first went down there in 93. I think half the problem was that I never play. I sat on the bench all year, and it just like real tough. And I just didn't think I was going to make it. I actually even went in there with a couple of weeks to go and pulled the pin. Said, "Oh, I'm going to go home," and the coach gave me a mouthful, and they gave me a bit of a run, and I went all right. And then the next year, I played the whole year in 21s. I was only 19, so I played the whole year in 21s. That was 94. Yeah, 94. I played the whole year in 21, so that was pretty good. I was coached by, for half the season, Wayne Ellis. I was at Western Suburbs at the time. Warren Ryan was the head coach, and then he got actually sacked about halfway through the year. West weren't doing real well in first grade. The 21s coach was Wayne Ellis. He went up into first grade and actually got coached by Dougie Rawlings, who he was for me, he was really good. I just loved being coached by him, and he taught me a lot of things and just how to play. I was playing second row by then, so how to play second row and do those sorts of things. The next year, played reserve grades sort of all year. Brian Cook was my coach, another really good coach. Could give a good spray too. Like if you did something wrong, he could give you a good spray. There's no doubt about that. And then I actually made my debut at the end of '95. I started off the bench in the last game in '95, and then '96 played the whole year in first grade. '96 with the Magpies, and it was just probably like all people. When I went down there, sort of the first thing I thought, well, I'm going to be playing first grade next week, and that's how good I am and things. And luckily for me, when I got down there, I worked out that it wasn't going to happen that quick. So I put a few plans in place and some goals, sort of playing 21s and playing reserve grade, and then play first grade. But yeah, it was a bit of a journey, and every year worked out I wasn't fit enough, so I had to train even harder. Certainly when I was trying to get into first grade, there was guys there playing second row, and I realised that if I wanted to play first grade, I had to beat them. And so I found out how hard they trained, and I trained twice as hard. So because I wanted their spot, and that was sort of the sort of thought patterns that I started having, and sort of helped me get into first grade.
And that was going to be my next question, Damo, is were there any guys there that sort of took you under their wing You talked about the coach there, and you started to see a bit of hope when you moved up and played 21s. But was there any one or two guys that sort of took you under their wing and showed you what it was going to take to make the top grade?
Probably not really at the start. Like, it was more the coaches sort of helped me along, and then it was just me just trying to figure a few things out. But I guess I had an idea of how I wanted to play and things like that, and I actually watched other players. Steve Menzies was coming through. Obviously, I didn't have the speed like Steve Menzies, but I liked the way he sort of played and picked on blokes on the edges and things like that. Certainly, I knew that's what I could do. I felt that I had a good amount of strength, so I could stand in tackles and things like that. And from my days playing half and 5'8", I thought I could get the ball away and things like that. I did play a few times at 5'8" and things like that at Western Suburbs, but straight away I realised that I didn't want the responsibility of having to control everyone else and things like that. So found it a lot easier for myself is just to play off the top of my head was sort of the way I'd always play, just nothing sort of controlled or anything. I just play off the top of my head. That was playing in the second row, and I could run the ball and things like that, and try and make breaks and things, and trying to figure out how to just have big games and things like that. So probably not anyone that really took me under the wing. Certainly met blokes that were really good guys, like Jason Taylor was a terrific guy when I met him. And the first time there, he introduced himself to me, and I'm a bit starstruck, sort of talking to blokes like Jason Taylor and Darren Britt and Jimmy Sedaris was there at the time, and so, talking to those guys. Obviously, the first time meeting Tommy, that was a real eye opener. He comes as advertised, Tommy. Like he looks mad on when everyone sees him on TV and things like that. He looks mad, but I'm telling you now, in real life, he's mad he was just as mad. He was just as mad. Yeah.
What about I just we'll get the camera and that too, brother. But talk to us about some of your most vivid memories there at Western Suburbs, because you talked about a lot of the brothers that you played with early on, like the McGuinness brothers and Scandalis, like big names that are still big names in the makeup of Western Suburbs now, 20 odd years later. Talk to us about some of your most vivid memories around the club with them sort of fellas.
Probably like one of my biggest memories is Johnny Scandalis' debut. It's actually a YouTube video. I know that much because I've watched it all the time. That's funny. It was against Penrith. It was actually the first time I started in the starting side in first grade, and John was it was his debut. Like, we'd played Balmain the week before. Oh, they were the Sydney Tigers at the time. They had a name change then. They were the Sydney Tigers. We were leading 14-0 at half time and got beat. So Tommy wasn't real happy, and he flogged the hell out of us that week. But I started in the side against Penrith, and Tommy actually sort of grabbed me and a couple of other boys. We're all sort of in the shed. He said, "The only reason you fellas are in the side this week is to fight." I thought, rightio. Which was pretty wild. I think Kevin McGuinness was down there. Johnny Scandalis was certainly there. And like, even my brother now, he talks about that game, and his favourite saying for that game was, "It was a fight and a game of football broke out." It was just a massive night. Kevin and Kenny played. Like, Kenny was playing fullback and Kevin was in the side. And like, even when we ran out, like, if someone had breathed in the wrong direction, I think a fight would have broke out. Like, it was back into the 70s, and like, it was and it was absolutely crazy. And then like, even after that, like, we actually won the game, which was good. And after the game, all the old West boys were in the sheds and saying, "Oh, that was the best game we've seen in 20 years," and things like that. And I said, "Yeah, sweet, no worries." And the next day, the papers are saying it's a disgrace, and and the commentary on the TV saying these blokes have lost the plot, they're mad. 5 blokes got cited from it. 5 blokes got cited from the game. All had to go to the judiciary. There was 4 from Penrith and 1 from West. So I just happened to be the bloke from West that got cited, and I got suspended. So it was a mad night, a really mad night. Yeah,
But
that
good old.
was probably the good old days. That was probably my biggest memory. And then in that year, in '96, was the last time West made the semi-finals. I was in the team then, and we played in the semi-final in front of 25,000 screaming West fans. Like, it was the atmosphere. I've never sort of felt the atmosphere like it ever since.
Yeah.
Like, I honest to God, when I ran out just from the atmosphere, I had tears in my eyes, just saying how good was this. Like, it was just an incredible night. Unfortunately, we got beat, but it was an incredible night that night, and it was the last time West got to play in the semi-finals. And luckily I was in there. But yeah, it was a good night that night too. Yeah.
What's some of the things that Tommy would do to fellas that wouldn't get involved in the tussle?
Oh, it was some of the strangest things. I won't mention the names that he did it to, but I was actually in reserve grade in the year, like it was '95, and they were playing North Sydney. And at the time, North Sydney, they had that brass band in the grandstand. They'd play music every time they scored a point. Well, I was down in the showers, and it sounded like this band had been playing for the last 40 minutes. Like, North were giving it to them. And Tommy came down, and what the trainers came down and said, "You better hide. Tommy's coming down, and he's not happy." So we all planted in the showers, and all the boys are coming in, and he's roasting all the boys. He's pasting them all, going one to another. And then he just got to this one particular bloke, and he just said, "Mate, have you got one of these?" And he pulled out a cow's heart out of his bag and threw it at this fella and hit this fella in the face with a cow's heart. And yeah, I was, that'll do, mate. He's mad, this fella. I don't want to get in trouble with this bloke. But yeah, I couldn't believe he'd done it. We're all standing there shocked and just telling each other to shut up in case he come in after us. But yeah, that was just one of the things that he did. Yeah.
Yeah. So 4 years at West, brother,
Yep.
in the top grade.
Yeah.
Why Canberra? You talked a little bit about Adelaide there before, but
Yeah.
Why Canberra after West?
Dean Lance actually got me to go. Like, he was at Adelaide at the time. He was coaching at Adelaide, and he was like, I really like. He was one of the reasons why I actually signed with Adelaide. And he went back to Canberra after Adelaide was closed. He talked to me about going back there, and he said he was going to coach possibly at some stage. And I was saying, "Oh, okay." And I went there under sort of his guidance, I guess you could say. But then he never got an opportunity. I was there. It's a tough place. I guess I was so used to the Western Suburbs way of doing things, and it was a tough time I had there. Although I was coached in the lower, I found it difficult being coached by Mel. Like, Mel's done some great things, and he's a model and things. I guess it was just one of those things where I couldn't work out what Mel wanted me to do or anything like that. And obviously from then, like, because I was sort of had a bad mindset, I didn't train as hard and things. I was only hurting myself then. But certainly, while I was there, Michael Hagan was the coach in the lower grades, who I still to this day think he was he's a really, really good coach. He really got some of the best out of me while I was at Canberra. But yeah, sort of probably didn't. I didn't play to the best of my abilities when I was at Canberra, and a lot of that sort of went back on my bad attitude. So, and that's I mean, Canberra was a good place to play. I played with some great guys like Laurie Daly, Brett Mullins, Jason Croker, Simon Wolford. Played with some great guys, like really great players. But yeah, I think I let myself down more than by just the attitude that I had.
Yeah, you're talking about some legends there, brother. Would have been.
Yeah.
So, what was the difference there, Damo, in a lot of the training as well? Because you're talking about Canberra players there that won plenty of premierships and played a lot of state, a lot of representative football as well. So, what were some of the differences, brother, in terms of the attitude in training with them fellas, as opposed to what you saw at West, which like you talked about, good times there. You grew up with a lot of them fellas, and the passion was always there, but they never went real deep into the finals like Canberra did.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, Canberra, like, for me, and I can only speak for myself, like you're saying, the passion that was that at West I sort of grew up with. A lot of the boys were my age, and we'd always been around together. Like even to this day, like I'm catching up with Ronnie Jones, Kevin McGuinness, Johnny Scandalis. We're playing golf, and we're just as competitive on the golf course as we were when we played footy and things like that. But at Canberra, I guess never sort of really had that camaraderie. Sort of, just just one of the boys and things. There was guys there like Ruben Wiki and Kenny Nagus, like certainly were some of the guys that I sort of hung out with, which was really good. Like enjoyed their company and things like that. But yeah, I sort of just never felt like I was like really in with the boy. Like it felt really, really professional, and it was all about your training and what you did. And that probably didn't help my mindset either. And sort of just and like my knee started playing up pretty badly a lot, and that plus my attitude sort of made it pretty difficult for him to pick me in first grade and things like that. So not certainly not trying to blame anyone. Like it was just if I had a better attitude and trained a bit harder, things would have went better for me at Canberra. Yeah, definitely.
That's definitely some advice you probably offloaded to a lot of young fellas over the years, and you'd be happy to do that again now, eh?
Absolutely. Everything's about the training. Everything's about your fitness. It's always just you got to be in your best shape. If you're in best shape and you can get your mindset right, you'll always play good footy.
Yeah. Damo, 26 at the end of Canberra, and it's like you vanished, brother.
Yep.
How did you feel? Like you talked about your mindset there, but you're 26. Like a lot of people are just getting to their peak at 26 and starting to dominate. And here you were, all the promise in the world, brother, and still coming back to knockouts and dominating, and being talk of knockouts and stuff. But it's like you went into the wilderness, and people sort of didn't know where you were, and then all of a sudden you pop up and you play Super League. But talk to us about those years, Damo, where it all ended.
Unfortunately, you've probably got some of that info from Wikipedia. I didn't actually go and play Super League. It's another Damien Kennedy.
Oh, it is. Yeah, right.
Funnily enough, it's another Damien Kennedy. But I was about 26. I was planning to go to Super League. Actually, Dean Lance was at Leeds, and I was planning to go there. But unfortunately, at the time, you had to play a certain amount of first grade games to go over to Super League, and I didn't have enough games. So I was at like I said, I went back to West to finish off the 2001, 2000 season. They were becoming the West Tigers the next year, but I actually got cut from West again. My knee was not in good shape, and I wasn't able to train as hard as I needed to. I played for Guildford for a year after, and then I went out to Group 6 and played out there. Played with Camden and had a couple of good years out there. Played for Southern Division, actually. Yeah, played for Southern Division, and then yeah, I I came back to Force for a few years. Then went back to Campbelltown for a few years. Played in the West Illawarra League. Won a premiership there with the West Illawarra guys, and then came back to Forwards. I've pretty much been a forward, but yeah, I played a lot of knockouts. Um, Always, some good teams, some bad teams. You know, get there, turn up, play the first day, and go home, sort of thing. Sort of them sort of teams, and then a couple of teams where win a couple of games and go pretty good, and then sort of run into a big powerhouse, and like as you said before, run into teams like the Yowies or someone like that. At the time, like I think the big powerhouses I was up against sort of was the Yowies, Nambucca, all those sorts of teams. So yeah, that was it. But I always loved going to the knockout. Always loved going to play in the knockout. Yeah.
Did you have any regrets, brother, when like it sort of wound up there when you were still only 26? Like you're still only a young man.
Yeah. Oh, certainly regrets, but and for a long time there, I probably blamed coaches and things like that. But at the end of the day, I realised that I didn't train hard enough and I didn't put enough work in, so I didn't deserve to be there. I thought instead of training hard and staying in my fitness, I thought I could just take shortcuts and I should still be in the first grade team. But that's not the way it works. And I worked that out. It took me a couple of years to work out, but in the end of it, I let myself down more than anything. Yep.
Talk to me about knockouts. We're only talking
Knockouts. Yep.
a couple of times to some people over the weekend, and I was at a delegates meeting, and I spoke to Nath Tierney the other night. We had dinner, and then talking to Benny Gunn there, and he remembered when he was a young fellow, you sort of took him to one of his first knockouts, and obviously we played together at Burke. But one of the best yarns that I've ever sort of heard was Chicka Gibbs was a real fiery man, like good man off the field, nice as pie. But as soon as he smelled that danker up and he crossed that line, he was mad,
Yeah.
But I remember the yarn when you're playing with Wellington up at Nambucca when you won it, and he talked about sending the forwards out to go out and try and knock your head off because you're just dominating them. And Burke was always a big pack, right through from when they were young to when they won it in '95, and even right through from George Orchard to Gavin, and you were in those sides, big Tony Martin, like big men. And Nath talked about it, and so did Mick Peachy on the weekend about how dominant you were in those years, and especially that knockout when you won it with Wellington. Like, what was it? Did you just love that sort of rough and tough footy, or you just knew you had to rise, or all over you?
That knockout with Wellington, I just finished my last year with Wes, so I was still pretty fit. And I don't know if anyone remembers or seen the video. Probably the most embarrassing thing is I had blonde hair at the time too. That was a trip away idea that I had, which looking back on it these days is a bit stupid. But yeah, sort of that Gavin Chicker and that they were with Burke and things playing with Wellington. Like, luckily for me, in that Wellington side, I had guys like Martin Peachy, Tyrone Peachy's dad. Like, he was playing there with me in the front row. Mick Peachy, Clinton Elms. Like I had a lot of boys there with me as well, so it wasn't sort of just me. So sort of gave me a bit more of an advantage that, the whole focus wasn't going to be on when we played. But yeah, we played Burke in the semi-final, and yeah, one of those days when everything was just, like, it was just one of those games which everything I'd tried just worked. And I was actually playing really, really well, and a message came out that that they'd taken Mick and Mellon off, Clinton off. They took them all off, and they left me out there with all the younger boys. And we were beating Burke pretty well by then. It was close to the end of the game. I thought, what am I going to do here to help this out? And it was actually Gavin on the ground. I think it was Gavin on the ground, and I just hit him real late and caused a bit of a ruckus. And they all wanted to kill me and things. And luckily for me, I was backpedaling at the time, and come and get me if you can. So I was just catching and passing all the time. Then sort of running away from them. And then for some reason I got tackled there at one stage, and I played the ball, and Gavin sort of gave me a good clip around the ear. And I turned around and started getting stuck into Gavin. I looked up, and there's 12 other Burke fellas coming straight at me, and I ran like a scalded cat. So that was that. But yeah, it was a big weekend. Sort of, we played Nambucca in the final with all the Donovans and all really, really big men. I think there was 5 or 6 of them. They all had to weigh sort of anywhere around 130, 140 kilos. One of them took a hit up, one of the boys, and he was a big boy, and I tried my best to hit him as hard as I could, but all I managed to do was just stop him. That's about all I could do. And he played the ball. He went off to the sideline. I watched another bloke at the same size and come straight on. I thought, I can't handle this. They're going to do this all day. So yeah, but like that week, like I said, we had Dave Peachy at fullback. We had Blaine Stanley at halfback. One of my good mates, Russell Hill, was lock. But if Russell ever watches this, he was a passenger the entire trip, so he did nothing. Ronald Jones, one of my good mates, Ronald Jones, was 5'8". We had a good team, a real good team, and yeah, probably, funnily enough, and everyone still talk. Like, I don't know if they still talk about it, but yeah, it was we were. There was they entered 2 teams, the Dubbo Pacemakers and the Wellington Wedgetails, and they didn't have enough, so they picked out the best draw and just went as that team. So that was pretty funny. Everyone, they wanted to protest against us and things like that, but they paid their money, so they didn't have much to go about then. But and I've played. I mean, over the years, like knockout footy, I've played with some terrific guys like Ewan McGrady, Panda. I played for Timor 1 year and sort of met all those boys. I've played with yourself and the Burke boys as well. Like, sort of, just, I've always enjoyed it. Certainly, probably the only regret with knockout football is that I didn't have a side from out here like Uabalong or Condo or Forbes or anything like that. So I never sort of got to play with the team. Probably the closest I came was Wellington. And then now that, like you said, you mentioned Benny Gunn there before, I'm going to be sort of helping out War this year, which is good, but sort of helps me get back to my local sort of teams type thing. So, it's going to be good.
Yeah, no, it'll be. I'll tell you what, brother, I'll get a lot out of having you around too. That's for sure. But talk to us about some of the strongest, the toughest competitors you faced in both NRL and knockouts.
In NRL, certainly, probably the hardest bloke ever that I played against was Shane Webke. The way he ran and things like, I'd always try and come from the side and hit him as hard as I could, but he was that compact and things like that. You just couldn't get at him, and the bloke, like, he was hard as nails, and he just kept coming at you. I was lucky enough, or then again unlucky enough, to play against Trevor Gilmeister. Everyone called him the Axe, and they said he could tackle. I thought for he was playing for the Queensland Crushers at the time when I played against him. I said he can't hit. He proved me wrong. He hit me that hard, my back teeth ached, and I just I don't want to get hit like that ever again. Like he really hit me. So guys like that, played against a lot of hard guys. Les Davidson, he played at Cronulla. I played against him. He's a very hard man. And those sort of hard, lucky for me, I was playing in the force, so I played against some of those really tough guys. It was always good to play against those guys. And in the knockout, and you particularly in the knockout, sort of when I was coming through, there didn't seem to be a lot of guys that were playing NRL or anything like that was playing in the forwards in the knockout. A lot of the guys were backs at the time. But for me, playing then, it was more about teams, not necessarily individuals. You come up against, say, Walgett at the time, you're going to get hit from all sides. Play against Burke, you're going to get hit from all sides. The Donovan boys, I remember playing I never really wanted to come up against Nambucca because you're in for a tough day with the Donovan boys. Paulie Davis was playing for Nambucca and things like that. So that was always going to be a tough day. And like I said, lucky for me, I played with Mel and Peachy and Mick Peachy. Those guys, I was lucky enough to play with them, and sort of grew up watching them playing against Forbes and things like that as well. So, and they were pretty hard guys. I love watching them play as well.
So you played with Wellington. You talked about that Wanderers side, that Sydney side early on. I remember Yowies grabbed you one time as well when we didn't field a side in Sydney, eh?
Yeah, yep.
They grabbed you.
Yeah,
and you played with a few as well.
Yeah, they grabbed me and played with Tiamana that day, and then that was probably the first. I was sort of there, and boys, and we're playing with a knockout legend there, and I was looking around. Who are you talking about? Then I realised, geez, I have played a lot of knockouts. Maybe I'm a bit too old for this business anymore. But no, that was good to play with the Yowies and playing with yourself and Lukey Walsh and things like that. That was probably the start of the first time I started playing with you guys, sort of thing. And probably about then, I was taking like Benny Gunn and taking young blokes from around here, who didn't really know much about the knockout. I'd often say, "Do you want to go to the knockout? Well, I'll find us a team, and we can go down there. I'll take you down there and introduce you to people, and you get into teams, and you'll love the knockout and things like that." I think I took his younger brother to Southwest Metro, and played a year with those guys, and actually got split right across the eyebrow playing for them. But anyway, and then I had a couple of years with Kari. When they're more sponsoring that now, but they had a couple of years with a team there, which was mainly Campbelltown and Liverpool guys, and we played a couple of years there. Again, I'm playing with Kevin McGuinness and Ronnie Jones and things like that, and Kenny and things. A lot of me knockout stuff revolves around them boys, and probably shouldn't say too much what what we did, but it was always good fun.
Yeah. Some of your advice you talked about earlier, brother. But is there anything that you sort of picked up along the way from people that made a difference to you that you can share with some of the younger fellas trying to make their way, not just with footy but life as well?
Probably more than anything is to, particularly with footy, I've often talk to a few young fellas around footy and things like that. If you wanted to be a first grade footballer and things like, you've got to put the rest of your life on hold and just focus on footy. It's just train, and when you're sick of training, you got to train some more. Don't doubt yourself. Probably more than anything else, you've got to be single-minded with your approach to it, particularly playing professionally. But at the end of the day, it's just working on, particularly now, I see the game now, how fast it is and things like that. Footy's a simple game. Work on particularly for forwards, your fundamentals, your defence, never miss a tackle, strong runs. You've got to have quick play the balls. I think, if you've got a quick play the ball, that's gonna be your best weapon as a forward. I always prided myself on my play of the ball. I felt like I could play the ball super quick. Get a team on the roll. And but in general, you gotta love the game. You gotta have love for the game, because if you're gonna make a career out of it, the love for your game's got to come out through the work that you're going to put in, and that's plain and simple. I've seen many guys who say, "Yeah, I'm going to make it in Sydney and things like that," but they got too many side things, and whether it's work or stuffing around or something like that, and drinking and those. And mate, that's the thing. You've got to give all that up and just be focused on the one thing, and it's not easy. They don't take people that are going to do silly stuff on the side and things like that, and not look after themselves. And even more so, when you do get your chance, and you're only going to get one shot at it, like they're not going to give you many. You're not going to get many second shots at it. So you got to be ready for that one chance, and when it comes, you got to take it in both hands and just go for it. Yep.
Did you only ever win the one knockout with Damo?
Yeah, I only won the one knockout, and that was the only time that I got into Monday as well. So yeah, I haven't still never made it into Monday many times, or ever, except that one time in '98. It was untold territory. It was really good, and then even better. And I'm going to throw them both under the bus here, Russell Hill and Ronald Jones. We drove down there together. Russell did nothing, just played lock and ran the ball after me every single time, and I said that on record. So yeah, I hope he hears that. And Ronald, and we drove from Campbelltown all the way to Nambucca. I played front row all weekend, and we got in the car. I started the first shift in the car on the way home, and I ended up driving all the way home while them two slept all the way. I was, this is no good with these fellas. Who are these fellas? So, yeah.
All right, in closing, brother, what are you doing with yourself now? Talk to us a little bit about where you're based.
Yeah, I work. Yeah, I'm still back in Forbes. My dad, I look after my daddy. I live with him and look after him a little bit. He's sort of getting on in years and not doing as well. And like all good sons, you got to look after your parents when they need their help. I've got a government job. I work in corrections in New South Wales, not in the jails or anything like that, but with parole and things like that. But I'm actually in a field where we're trying to do things for Aboriginal clients and things like that. So, sort of help them sort of get away from corrections. So trying our best to do that. My best to get that all happening. But yeah, still in Forbes, still doing day-to-day things. I go down and watch the local footy and this thing. I've done some refereeing over the last couple of years, and sort of even enjoyed a one weekend at the knockout refereeing down in Nowra. Probably couldn't have picked a worst time to go. It was that wet and muddy and things like that. But yeah, went down and did that. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm hoping to get back into some coaching and things like that over the next couple of years, just help out sort of the local side. And but yeah, it's sort of just slowing down a lot. Me, like I said, I've had some dramas with my knees over the years, and it's pretty much busted now. But yeah, sort of just poke around here in Forbes, and as I said, helping War out at the knockout this year. See how things go, and hopefully help them out. I think they started something pretty good for out here. I guess more than anything, a lot of the other teams have. I know a lot of the other teams have said a few things about War and things like that, but I'll stand behind these guys because we haven't had nothing out here. Out in this area, out in this sort of Central West area, we've never had a team at the knockout, and this is something we could probably get young Koori kids to aspire to, wanting to come play at the knockout with War. So I know kids do it. Playing for Nanamai. I know kids do it playing for WAC. I know for Newcastle and things like that. So hopefully something can be built out here where those young Koori lads would want to come and play for War and build that thing. I guess now all these lads that do say stuff about War, and that the thing they don't know, they had to start somewhere themselves. So War's only pretty young, and hopefully that we can build bigger and better things.
What I want to ask you before we let you go, Old Boys Day. Do you get down to the Old Boys Day much, and how much does that mean to you? Obviously, you got the West Tigers now, so you had the split or the merger with both clubs. Have you guys been involved in Old Boys Day with the club?
Yeah, I've been actually quite a few years ago now. There was a sort of reopening at Redfern Oval. They had a West Tigers sort of oval, like Balmain and West players. I went to that. I've been to a few West Old Boys Days sort of over the last few years. When I can get down to them, obviously I live a fair way away, so going down there sort of is a bit harder, sort of getting motel rooms and things like that. I always like Border and Kevin McGuinness and all them. They always offer a room and stuff like that, but we all go. I snore too much, so I don't want to upset them when I go there. So you always try and get a hotel room or something like that. But no, certainly try and get down a few of the Old Boys Days and things like that. Yeah, it's always good.
And footy, NRL and knockouts, you've been watching them in previous years, and who were some of the footballers that you like in the modern day, brother?
In the modern day, I've actually enjoyed watching. Obviously, the Tigers. I get a bit frustrated with them. It's hard to watch them. There's a couple of young fellows from out this way that are playing there at Canterbury. Young Burton, Matty Burton, he's from Dubbo. He's playing really good football. Like I think he's going on. Young Charlie Staines, he's from Forbes. He's playing for West Tigers. He was on the wing though, which I struggle to barrack for wingers. But that's always hard. But sort of some of the young fellas that I hear from around here going down to Sydney, I like seeing them do well. Like really like seeing them do well. And the knockout, obviously, like I said, like seeing War, see how well they go. Sort of, got that sort of local interest. But and it's always interesting this time of year. You find out where fellas are playing. I used to enjoy it when everyone used to sort of find out where I was playing at the knockouts. Like it was always funny, and I'd always have phone calls. I'd never hear from blokes until a week or two before the knockout, and they're ringing me up. So
like they've known you since they were kids, eh?
Yeah, no. Kenny McGuinness was the worst. I'd never hear from him. Never ring me all year. I'd be playing football with him and he'd never ring me. And then he'd ring me a week before the knockout. Just, what are you doing? What's up? What's happening? Why don't you just ask and hurry up? Say, all right, who are you playing for the knockout? No one yet. Come play with me. Oh, right, we'll see how we go.
Yeah. No, it's always I was saying before we come on air, but I haven't seen you in years, and it was a pleasure playing with you, and it was a pleasure watching your dominance as well. When I wasn't playing with you, so You're truly in the top echelon, I believe, of knockout players and knockout forwards of the last 20, 30 years, brother. So it's a privilege to have you on, Damo. And yeah, we thank you and obviously look forward to seeing you at the Knockout with War.
Thanks, Shawnee, and appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks, brother. We'll talk to you
All right,
soon,
brother.
eh?
See you, bro.
Thanks, Damo. All right, guys. So season 3, episode 1, in the bank, Damien Kennedy, the living legend, Damien Kennedy. So thanks again for tuning in. Been in talks with Cliffy Lyons and Andrew Walker for next week, so hopefully can bring one of those guys to you next week. Watch the pages, GameChangers Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. I'll roll all that information out, but hopefully we get Cliffy Lyons and Andrew Walker next week.